Welcome to the Black Entrepreneur Experience podcast, inside the business, buzz, and brilliance of Black entrepreneurs. Here is your host, Dr. Frances Richards.
This is a bonus episode. What happens in Vegas goes all over the world on Black Entrepreneur Experience episode number 220. Thank you for joining us as we elevate the Black Entrepreneur Experience by interviewing CEOs, thought leaders, innovative thinkers, and Black entrepreneurs across the globe. I'm your host, Dr. Frances Richards. A Millennial award-winning trademark attorney, six-figure entrepreneur, founder and managing attorney of Radiance IP Law, and author of the upcoming book, Trademark Like a Boss. Welcome, Radiance Harris.
Thank you so much for having me.
I've given our audience such a brief bio. Why don't you fill in the gaps and share with our audience what you'd like them to know about you and your business?
Sure. So again, I'm excited to be here. Long story short, I started my legal career over a decade ago. I started at the world's largest law firm, helping the big brands, Fortune 200 companies, protect their trademarks. And so I started there. And while there, I realized that there were two things that I noticed. These big brands protected their brands, their trademarks, before they made it big. So they did the legal protections before they became the big names that they were today. And the second thing I noticed was that the people that I was going after in my role as a trademark attorney for these big companies were often small business owners and, new aspiring entrepreneurs who didn't have the knowledge about intellectual property, why it was important and why they needed to protect it. So that is what inspired me to launch my own law practice, Radiance IP Law. We'll be celebrating 5 years this month, November. And basically, we help small and emerging businesses protect, monetize, and leverage profitable brands with trademarks. So we work with those businesses who have big goals, big plans for the future, and want to make sure that their trademarks and brands are protected early so that they can prepare for that future growth.
Let's go back down memory lane when you were starting law school. And once you graduated, what made you decide to go into intellectual property law?
So when I was in law school, I was fortunate to have internships and summer associate experiences that allowed me to dibble and dabble in different practice areas. So I knew I didn't want to be like a litigator. I didn't want to be in court. I didn't want to be that kind of attorney. I wanted to be the attorney that was doing transactional work. So I thought maybe maybe that would be entertainment law or corporate law or real estate law or something like that. So I kept my mind open and I did different working across different areas of law practice. I did trademarks, I did copyrights, did bankruptcy, I did litigation, I did real estate and corporate. And I basically fell in love with trademarks. It was a good fit for me because I was an English major and trademarks is very much about words and meanings and what they convey. And it was just a natural fit because it also brought together elements of litigation that didn't require you to be in the courtroom, and then transactional work, which I think was a good fit for me. So I immediately fell in love with trademarks. That's what I jumped into, and I've been doing it ever since.
Talk about that moment when you decided to go on your own. What advice would you give other attorneys or others that are in the business world and they're like, I'm ready to do it on my own?
To be honest, it wasn't a plan of mine to go on my own. When I walked away from law firm life, to be honest, I thought I was done with the law because I was so burnt out from working for someone else and having to do what they do. And it was just, I was over that. But I wasn't sure about what my next step was. So I took a few months off and I came to this aha moment and realized that I very much enjoyed what I was doing. I loved trademark law. I just didn't enjoy working for someone else anymore. And so it was just one of those aha epiphanies in a matter of a few weeks. And I just decided with my husband's support, because he's always encouraged me to go out on my own. He's like, go for it. And I was like, okay, go for it. So I literally just jumped in there, started a business, had no clients because mind you, I didn't, Fortune 200 companies weren't my focus. My focus was small businesses. So I had no clients, no savings, no plan. I just opened up for business and just kind of winged it at the beginning. And so my advice would be to, it'd be best to come up with some kind of plan before you kind of jump into entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship isn't for the faint of heart. It's simple, but it's hard because a lot of the hardness of entrepreneurship is that having that mental strain. So like when you're coming through with those obstacles and challenges, and maybe the clients aren't coming, the money isn't flowing the way you want, you have to have that mental strength and perseverance to keep going despite what's in front of you, because entrepreneurship is very much a marathon. It's not a sprint. And so that would be my advice, to have a plan and just be consistent and work towards it. And then things will just eventually fall into place.
Tell us a story that gave you that aha moment that you knew you were going to be successful.
I would say for me, within the last year or so, I've had an aha. And the aha was that I needed to bet on myself. I needed to trust myself. I needed to believe in myself. And so it's that mindset shift. It was that I can do this. There are other people out there who are doing it. What makes them any better than me? I have the background, I have the experience, I have the knowledge, I have the clients who are coming to me. And so it's go for it. Just believe in yourself. And so my word of the year for this year was believe in yourself. And so that's the word. Every year I've had a word. The last year was abundance. This year was belief. And for me, it was at that switch of you got to bet on yourself. Because at the beginning, I would say the first 3 years of being in business, I was doing it. I was going through the motions, but I didn't wholeheartedly believe that what I had envisioned for myself was doable. You're going through the motions as if it's doable, but do you really believe, deep in your soul, that you can accomplish everything that you've set out to do? And so my aha moment has happened within the last year or so of just betting on myself and just saying, I can do this. You got this.
There are so many brands and businesses that are dominating. Radiance, talk about a brand or business that's dominating that you admire and why.
There isn't a particular brand that stands out. I would say that the people that I admire the most are those who are in the trenches with me. So the network of women entrepreneurs who are have multiple six-figure businesses, who aspire to be 7, 8-figure businesses. Those are the women that I admire because we're in the journey together. Those are the types of companies that I look for inspiration to. So there isn't a big brand particular that inspires me because I'm not seeing what it took for them to get there. What inspires me is seeing people in the journey, seeing where they started, seeing us working together as a part. I've been a part of different business masterminds with other women entrepreneurs. And those are the women that inspire me. Those are the brands that inspire me. The emerging up and coming brands. Those are the clients that I love to work with because I'm with them in the trenches. I'm seeing them at the beginning, and it's going to be even more amazing when I see them once they've accomplished the goal. That's what inspires me.
Talk about your law firm, COVID-19, and the pivot.
So fortunately, I haven't had to really pivot a lot. Radiance IP Law has been a virtual law practice from the beginning. Our infrastructure has been virtual. We've had Zoom for the longest. We've used the cloud. So everything has been virtual, really utilizing and maximizing technology since the beginning. So when COVID hit, I didn't have to scramble to do anything, to be honest. The main thing was I would just say increasing my visibility. That's the only thing that I did in terms of a pivot, is being more online more, because of the simple fact that since this has hit, people are online more. This is the new world where people are online more. And so that's the only thing that I really did, was really up my visibility, got on more podcasts, on social media more. That's the only pivot I did, but we continue to do the same level of quality, excellent services for our clients. We're able to serve clients nationwide as well as internationally if they're looking for protection in the United States. So we haven't really had to pivot. So that's been a blessing.
Share your most amazing success story since being in business.
My most amazing success story, I would say a big success story for me was being able to, second year in business, be a 6-figure business. Statistically, when you look at women-owned businesses or just businesses in general, like only 10% of businesses make over six figures. And then it gets even lower as you get higher. So for me, being a Black women-owned business, being in my second year of business, hitting six figures and continuing to increase and double revenue, that's been a success for me because I'm able to pay for our home, our bills, everything with my business. Like this is money that I've worked for to do. And that's what's so amazing to me. Like that's amazing to me that I'm able to pay for these things with the sweat of my brow. I didn't have to go work for somebody to do that. And there's nothing against being an employee. I'm just saying there's such a feeling of success and I don't know, celebration that I can do this on my own and continue to do this from the money that I'm making through my own business.
Let's switch gears for a moment. Talk about the worst moment in business and what was your takeaway?
So the worst moment in business, there isn't, I would just say that entrepreneurship has been a roller coaster. And for me, the most difficult transition for me was starting my business as a single married woman and then becoming a mom around the third year of my business. That was a big challenge for me. The pivot from like being an entrepreneur and my baby being my business to actually having a real baby that I had to like balance entrepreneurship with. So I would say that was a challenge of like readjusting how I work and then getting used to that new normal. So that would be one of my biggest challenges because I had to get creative about how I found clients and got clients because of the fact that like for the first 9 months of my son's life, I was at home with him. I was basically a stay-at-home mom who had a law firm that she had to operate. And at that time, I had some support in the business, but not as much as I do now. So it was a really trying time for me of like juggling motherhood and entrepreneurship. Now I've got more of a rhythm and understanding the importance of delegating. It's so important to delegate in business, and so that's what I've learned. That I had to get through that real struggle to realize that I can't do it all. I can't do it all in my personal life, and I can't do it all in business. And so that was a challenge for me that I've learned from and adapted accordingly.
What problem exists in the world today that you would like to solve?
Well, for me, as far as what I do, and so, my gift is being a trademark attorney. I'm good at it. It's something I really enjoy doing. And so for me, it's making legal services legal accessible to all businesses. And so with me, like that was what inspired me to write my book, Trademark Like a Boss, is being able to make trademarks accessible to all businesses. So removing that excuse that I can't afford this, it's too expensive. And so that's one of my missions is making it accessible because what I do, trademark protection, it's more than just, oh, let me protect my name. It's about protecting your brand. It's about protecting your legacy that you're building. And so if you're in a business and you're about building legacy for your business and generational wealth, a trademark is very important in that. And so that's what I feel is my mission is to help make legal, particularly trademarks, accessible for all businesses.
Speaking of legacy, when it's all said and done, how would you like to be remembered, Radiance?
I would like to be remembered as someone who was a blessing to others. I always pray, my regular prayer is like, God, please bless me so I can be a blessing to others. So I want to be known as someone who cared about others and who really truly wanted to bless others. Because I always live by the philosophy that if I eat, we all eat. Like I'm always about spreading the love and the wealth among those who I love and care about.
Talk about your book and how can they purchase the book?
Sure. So probably by the time this episode airs, my book will be released, and you'll be able to purchase it on Amazon.com in paperback or ebook form, or you can purchase a paperback copy through my website, which is radianceiplaw.com/book. So it'll be available on either of those platforms. The name of the book is Trademark Like a Boss, the ultimate step-by-step guide to protecting your brand. And I'm really excited for people to read it because I really put my heart and soul into making it very user friendly and provided a lot of value with charts and documents and charts. And my goal is to make sure that whoever reads it feels educated enough and has the knowledge to, if they decide that they want to try the trademark process on their own, go for it. If they decide, this isn't for me, I'm here to help as well. So the whole point was for me to educate and spread as much knowledge as possible in the book.
Did you self-publish or did you go the traditional route of publication?
No, I self-published this book.
Would you recommend others self-publish?
Yes, I recommend it. I think for me, it was important that I had ownership of the book and had the IP ownership of the book. And I enjoyed it was a stressful process nonetheless, but I enjoyed kind of just learning the different steps that you take to self-publish. And so it was important for me to experience that. It was never really a goal of mine to write a book until this past August. I just felt like I was called, like God spoke to me and was like, write this book. And I ended up writing it within 72 hours over a long weekend. And then I'll be publishing it within 90 days. So for me, it was just something that I'm called to do. I'm called to create this impact and inspire. And so I didn't want to miss this opportunity to do so.
Speaking of books, what book would you recommend and why?
The book I would recommend, so one of my favorite books is Profit First by Michael Mika something something. It's a really difficult last name to pronounce, but it's called Profit First. And it's one of my favorite books because it talks about the importance of prioritizing your profits in your business. Like I think it's important to go into business and have a profitable business, not a business that you continue to lose and drain money from. And so if I could recommend any book, it would be definitely to read that one.
Talk to a younger Radiance. What advice would you give to a younger you?
The advice I would give to myself is pretty simple. Believe in yourself. Believe in yourself. I think a lot of times we just have a lot of self-doubt and fear and mindset issues that prevent us from pursuing opportunities. But I think it's important at the end of the day, if you have that confidence, if you just believe in yourself and just go for it. Like growing up, my mom used to always say, like, if you're applying for a job or whatever and you don't necessarily check all the boxes, you still should apply for it. Like, don't let them tell you no. You don't tell yourself no. And so that's what I wish I would have believed in myself more earlier. Like this belief and mindset came a lot later. And so if I could tell myself a long time ago, it's like, believe in yourself. You got this. Like, don't limit yourself. That's what I would tell myself.
And what was that epiphany where the light bulb went off? Because when you think about entrepreneurship and abundance, it's all about the mindset. So was
Mhm.
there this pivotal moment or a story around that light bulb moment for you?
The story would be basically being within this pandemic. So I find that being in this pandemic where a lot of things have shut down and closed down, I've had a lot of opportunity to self-reflect and to really think about things. Like I really have. And I spent a lot of this time actually working on myself and seeing how or ways that I can improve. So I would say the main story is that in those times, I've had a lot more quiet times, if you will, like to really reflect and hear God's voice and the Holy Spirit directing me as to where I should go. And so for me, the story is just having more moments of reflection and silence that I didn't necessarily have before. Before you're hustling, bustling, you're going here, you're going there, you're going everywhere. And so for me, I was able to have this aha epiphany because I slowed down just a little. I'm still busy. It's just a different kind of busy. It's like a busy within your home because you can't really go too much of anywhere. And so you have a little bit more time to like quiet down. So that's the story. It's not this big, like, it's just the moment of like sitting down and thinking like, girl, you got this. Like, what have you been doing? Like, it was just one of those days. So that's basically how I got there.
Radiance, what are you most grateful for today?
I am so grateful for my son. I'm very grateful for my son. I adore him. I love him to death. He's going to be my legacy. He's my why. And so I'm grateful that God found fit for me to be his mother.
Talk about your top two influencers and what lessons did they teach you?
Top two influencers. So I would have to say one that stands out for me is just Oprah Winfrey. And the reason she stands out is because she took her, I guess, what was perceived as a failure, so being fired from her news anchor job, and then being able to go and have her own television show and then turn it into this mega empire. Like, that's something I really admire, where it's like she took that perceived failure of being fired and like really took off from there. And so that's inspiring for me to see a Black woman like that who has accumulated so much wealth and made such a big impact from that one pivotal moment. And then influencers, I would say another influencer for me is my grandmother. So my grandmother is someone who has always instilled in me the importance of having belief in God and allowing him to lead you and just having faith. And so she's done that. She's instilled that into me since I was a little girl. And so I think that has had a big impact in me in more ways than I realized until I became an adult, of like always knowing that there's somebody higher power who's in control. And sometimes you just have to surrender and not feel like you have to take control of everything. Because I'm very much a control freak. It's just in my nature where I'm trying to control everything. But you just kind of have to come to the realization that you're not in control of everything and you have to just surrender to a higher power. And so my grandmother has instilled that into me.
If someone wrote an autobiography about you, Radiance, what would the title be?
Oh, gosh. I would say the title would be She Believed She Could, So She Did.
Talk about naming your business. How did that come about?
So when I decided to launch my law firm, I knew that I wanted my law firm to be unlike any of the other law firms. So everything from the name to the types of clients we worked with to our exclusive flat fee model, which was unheard of at the time when we launched. I knew that I wanted my name to stand out and just not to be like a law offices of, like as all law firms do. And so I was like, well, my name's Radiance. It happens to be a word that means like bright and bold. And those are, a few of our values is about being bright and bold. So I thought the word radiance and then IP law, because I specialize in intellectual property law. So I came up with the name Radiance IP Law. And I think it really stands out just by the word radiance alone, I think speaks volumes. A lot of people say, like, even when they hear my name, they're like amazed that it's actually my name. And it is my name. It's on my birth certificate. And so for me, yeah, Radiance IP Law is the name that I loved and the name that stood out, the name that had meaning to me. And of course, I immediately went and trademarked it once I came up with the name.
That's brilliant. And who named you? And do you know the story behind your name?
I do. So my parents, both my parents, my mother and father, their names start with the letter R. So I was their firstborn child. They wanted a name that started with R that sounded like faith, hope, or patience. And they were racking their brains about, okay, what can we come up with? And one day they went to the dictionary, looked under R's, looked under, R, and the word radiance stood out. And they're like, that's it. We love that name. It's different, makes a statement. And then there you go. So that's how I got my name, Radiance.
And how was it growing up with the name Radiance?
So as a child, I didn't like my name because I got made fun of a lot, radiation, radiator, how kids are. So I didn't actually really appreciate my name until I got older, like I would say probably around high school, college. And so now I love my name. I really think that, people often ask the question, do you become the name? It's like some people name their child after they're born. And it's like, oh, they look like a so-and-so. And other people name their child before they were born. In my case, I had my name before I was born. So it's one of those things where it's like, I guess I've had to aspire to my name. You can't walk around grumpy and mumbly with a name like Radiance. You can't like be mediocre with a name like Radiance. So I think for me, it just kind of worked out.
What is something as consumers or business owners that we should know about your industry that we don't know?
What you should know about, so when you're shopping around for an attorney, it's important for you to find someone who specializes in what it is that you need. So people think you're an attorney and you know all areas of the law, and you don't. Like, that's like going to a gynecologist for brain surgery. It's not a good idea. And so the same happens with law. Like if you're going through a divorce, you need a family law attorney. If you need help with personal injury, you need a personal injury attorney. If you want trademarks or copyrights, you go to an intellectual property attorney like myself. So there, you want to go when you're looking for an attorney, go to someone who is highly specialized. You want to stay away from those jack of all trade general practices. So if you go to an attorney and says, I do this, I do this, I do, and they're just naming off 5 different areas of practice, you want to run for the hills. So you absolutely want to run for the hills. So that's the one thing. The other thing is to look at, a lot of people go shopping for attorneys as if they're like price shopping at Walmart or something or Target. Like you don't want to do that with an attorney. You want to look at the overall value that they're offering. Some attorneys offer hourly rates, others offer flat rates, some offer, where it's contingency fees where they're paid based on whether or not they win the case for you. So there's different fee arrangements. And so when you're shopping around, you want to definitely make sure that they specialize in what you're doing. And secondly, you want to look at what their fee arrangements are. And don't necessarily look at, oh, shoot, that's too much. You got to look at the overall value, because a lot of times people have this misconception of like, oh, I can get a trademark for $500 because LegalZoom does it for $500. But LegalZoom isn't an attorney. They're not a law firm. They're just a document filing platform. So they basically just do what you tell them to do. So you don't know what you're doing. You're going to them thinking that they're going to help you, and they're not. If you say, I want a trademark for this, they're going to file a trademark for this, even though that might not be the right thing for you. They're not going to give you any legal advice or strategy or counsel. And so that's something to be mindful of, that those DIY document filing systems are not attorneys. They're just document filing systems. And so you're not going to get, when you think you can get a trademark for $500, you're just getting someone to file your paperwork. When you're hiring an attorney, you're getting their legal expertise, their legal guidance, you're getting them to do the work correctly. Because fortunately, LegalZoom actually makes me a lot of money, because a lot of people go there and then it gets messed up and they lose out on that money, and then they have to come to me to either fix it or we have to restart the whole trademark process over. So that's something to keep in mind, to really look at the overall value of what it is that you are looking for. Don't just look at the price and be like, oh no, I can't afford that. Really think about it and consider those things, that you want to hire lawyers who are good at what they do and specialize, because getting your business in legal trouble is going to be a lot more expensive than you think. That's all I have to say about that. Yeah.
Talk about a technology platform or a technology tool that's a must-have for you in managing your business day to day.
I mean, for me, it definitely, there's so many. But I mean, for me, definitely just having a laptop and all I need is a laptop and a cell phone. Like those are the two things that I need. And I would say for managing, at a minimum, so I use Google, like Google Suites. I guess they've changed the name recently. Having Google Suites, so having a place with your email and places to save your documents in the cloud. Like those are the 3 most important things. I do have other things that I use, but those are the 3 things that I need to actually run a business: my laptop, my cell phone, and email, and with the Google Drive and all of that.
What have you not done in life that you dream about often?
I dream about having a 7-figure law firm. I haven't achieved that yet, but I'm on my way. And I'm super close. So that is one thing that I dream about doing, is having a 7-figure law firm.
If anything, what keeps you up at night?
What keeps me up? I would just say just having concerns or worries about making sure my family's okay, just making sure that they're okay. If anything, that's what keeps me up at night. Fortunately, I actually sleep pretty well. And the only time I'm up at night is if there's something that I feel like God wants me to think about or consider that I didn't have the time to consider during the day. But typically I sleep pretty well at night. But for the most part, I would just say making sure that my family is okay, that we're all okay.
Talk about self-care. What does self-care look like for Radiance?
So self-care is always evolving, but generally speaking, self-care for me is being able to ride my Peloton bike, going to the spa and getting a massage. I love that. And just being kind to myself and giving myself grace and not putting so much pressure on myself. And then also just doing the things that I enjoy and that I love, not feeling like I have to earn anything, like just feeling that I'm worthy of whatever it is. I want to go to Starbucks. Great, go to Starbucks. Like not limiting myself when I want something or desire something. If I want to take a nap during the day, go and take that nap, So that's what self-care is about, is listening and really being in tune to what it is that you really need and not limiting yourself and just going for it. So that's how I would define self-care, in addition to getting massages and riding my bike and doing all those other fun things.
What can we do right now to support your business?
So what you can do right now, so if you're interested in chatting about your trademark needs, because here's the thing, all businesses have trademark needs, whether you know it or not. You can absolutely schedule a clarity call or IP strategy session with me, and that can be done through my website at radianceiplaw.com. If you're also interested in learning more about the trademark process and are interested in my book, you can purchase that through my website as well. It's radianceiplaw.com/book.
And they can pre-order that now?
Yes, it is available now for pre-orders and until it's going to be launched on officially November 17th. And so after that date, it'll be available for order on my website as well as Amazon.com.
You talked about moving your business to 7 figures. What do you need right now that you don't have to move your business forward?
So what I'm working on right now, I'm building the infrastructure for that 7-figure business. So I've been really focused on having that power team. So I have some tremendous members on the team that are helping me move things along. And so that's something that I'm working towards, is having that powerhouse team. And then secondly, continuing to get, bring in clients. I think as businesses, we're always looking to get more clients. And so those are the two things, is making sure I have the infrastructure and the team to support that 7-figure business I envision, and then continuing to bring in those clients and helping them protect, monetize, and leverage their trademarks.
Is there a social cause tied to your company or business?
I don't necessarily have a social cause per se. The focus of my business is just helping small businesses and entrepreneurs protect themselves legally. And so that's my main social cause, is advocating for businesses, particularly minority owned, Black owned businesses, helping them get their legal infrastructures in place so they can go out and focus on doing the amazing things that they want to do in the world.
How do you feel about who you have become?
I think I just like, one of my favorite books is like Michelle Obama's Becoming. And it's the idea that becoming is an evolution. You're always becoming something different. Like it's not something that you reach and achieve. And so for me, where I am in my life, I'm working towards becoming a better version of me. So I don't really have an answer to that. I'm enjoying the process, so to speak, to continuing to evolve to be a better version of myself.
What is the hope for your generation?
I think the hope for our generation is that we live in a world that is accepting and loving and free of racism and focused on happiness. And I think freedom is a big term for, people say so many things about millennials, but one thing for sure is that we're about freedom. We were about working remotely before it was considered cool. Before the pandemic, a lot of people were against like remote working. And then of our generation, we're like, yeah, we can be effective from home. We can be productive from home. We can make you a lot of money from home. And so I think that's a part of the freedom, is being in charge of like how you work, where you work, and being trusting in that. And so I think there's a lot that our generation hopes for. But I think most importantly, the word freedom stands out to me. Freedom socially, freedom economically, just freedom in all regards.
And Radiance, what do you do when you hit that bump in the road and you need to reset and readjust?
So for me, I'm a big fan of like solo retreats. So a lot of times I'll just like check into a hotel, like a nearby hotel for like a weekend to just like reflect. And because it removes me from like environment distractions. Like I have a lot of distractions at home. And so when I'm able to like isolate myself and like, maybe watch some Netflix or whatever, and then, do some soul searching, that's how I'm able to adapt and reflect and then readjust and come up with a new plan moving forward.
Talk about your most memorable moment in life or business.
I think the most memorable moment for me was, there's several, but I think the most pivotal one was graduating law school, getting a job at the big law firm that I had set out to get a job at, and then passing the bar, like that whole season. Because for me, I've known I wanted to be a lawyer since I was 15 years old. And so everything that I did from, the college I went to Swarthmore College. I was an English and religion major. And then I went to University of Maryland School of Law for law school. And I knew in high school that I wanted to be a lawyer. And then in college, after I did this summer law school program, I knew I wanted to work at a big law firm. So that whole season of graduating law school, passing the bar, working at my dream job, that is like a really big memory that stands out to me, because that's what put me on track to be where I am today, to be able to start my own law firm and to have the knowledge and expertise that I have to be able to impact businesses today.
Talk about at 15, knowing your purpose and having passion about it. There are people 30, 40, 50, 60 that they have not uncovered what they should do or be. How did that come about at 15?
So I guess you could say at 15, my 15-year-old mind, how I came to it, I guess you could say it was almost in a superficial way. And then what I mean by that is that I didn't know any lawyers. The only lawyers I really knew about are the ones I saw on TV. But there was one particular family friend who was a lawyer. He was the first lawyer I ever knew. He was the father of one of my basketball teammates. I played AAU growing up. And he was the only lawyer I knew. And he made lawyering look so cool. Like he looked like he enjoyed what he did. Looked like he had a lot of money, looked like he worked with cool clients. And I was like, I want to do that. Like not really knowing what being a lawyer meant. I just knew that I wanted to do that and be that. And so that's what I mean by it was like superficial, because I didn't have all of the information. I just knew that looked cool. He had money and he looked happy. So that's how I ended up in my 15-year-old mind being like, I'm going to be that. I'm going to accomplish that. And so I literally did everything leading up to that. And that's kind of how I've always been. Like when I've set a goal, I've just been very focused on achieving that goal.
Radiance, if you conducted this interview, what is the one question you would have asked yourself? I want you to ask the question and answer it.
I would ask myself, what do you define as success? And I would answer it is that success is a journey, not a destination. So I don't really have a definition of success. It's just that I'm constantly enjoying the journey towards the next goal, hitting that next milestone. For me, that is the picture of success. It's the journey of hitting those different milestones that I set up.
We've come to the part of our interview. It's called Fun Facts Lightning Round. I'm going to ask you a series of questions, and I'd like you to give me very quick answers. If it's something you desire not to answer, feel free to say pass. Are you ready for the Fun Facts Lightning Round?
Yes.
The last movie you saw?
The Holiday Calendar on Netflix.
Your favorite singer or rapper?
Indie Irie.
Your favorite dance song?
Celebrate by Kool and the Gang.
You relax doing what?
Getting a massage.
Your first job?
A summer camp counselor.
What food you eat every day no matter what?
Seafood.
You work out or hit the couch?
A combination of both.
Your favorite month?
December.
Radiance, thank you so much for joining us on Black Entrepreneur Experience Podcast. Before we let you go, why don't you share with our audience the best way they can connect with you and do business with you? And feel free to give all your social media handles.
Yes, I can be found on Instagram at Radiance Harris ESQ. I can be found on Facebook at Radiance IP Law. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn as well. I'm Radiance Harris ESQ on there. And you can check out my website, which is www.radianceIPlaw.com.
Thank you, Radiance. That's a wrap.
Thank you for listening and subscribing to Black Entrepreneur Experience. We would love for you to leave a review and rating on iTunes and share with your friends. For show notes and more episodes, go to www.beepodcast.com. Join us next Wednesday, and remember, green is the new black. So keep your bank accounts and your business in the black.